Call of Duty World War II. We're here on Xbox Series S taking a look at this return to boots on the ground experience. So if you're not familiar with this one, it was basically kind of a one-off experience that really brought the series back to its roots, and that was highly appreciated at the time. We were getting very fatigued from the array of never-ending futuristic Call of Duty games, jetpacks and stuff. It was a big deal, it really was, at the time. And I get blown up by a vehicle right off the bat. That's lovely. So what are we getting here on the Series S? Well, it's clearly visible. It is a 60 FPS experience, as Call of Duty always is. And we're getting, I believe it's supposed to be something like, it's a dynamic resolution scaling. A lot of notes are 900p from the air. It could be up to 1080p, somewhere around that range. So just keep that in mind, and with the extra power present on the Series S, we should be more smoothly or, well, perfectly hitting that level. So that is fantastic. It looks really, actually quite sharp, all things considered. And this game did have an amazing, like, visual sort of, like, pipeline, if that makes sense. Like, it is a very, very stunning game, because they certainly updated a lot of elements of how this game, you know, visually looks, how the Call of Duty franchise looks. They did some neat upgrades with this one. So we're showing off the campaign here, which has some interesting squad-based stuff, and then an element of, hey, you know, you've got to do health and whatnot, and actually manage your health packs, and that was quite interesting. I'm kind of wanting ammo, if that could be great. Thank you. That's a little bit of a mortar strike there. So there's like some neat squad-based things, which is kind of neat in this one. If you weren't familiar with that, you kind of pass things back and forth. It's quite interesting, and the campaign's brutal. And this is intense, but it's actually kind of funny that this scene here, this whole segment, is actually toned down from what they showed off at E3, because I was, where do these grenades keep coming from? What? Yes, because when I went to E3, it was actually even more visceral and intense. It's kind of, you know, semi-humorous, because again, it was even more brutal than it was at this particular situation in this setup for the full launch of the game. So that I find completely fascinating. But, you know, the usual sort of Call of Duty situations where you're going through these really aggressive battlefronts with visceral combat aiming to depict the era. And I think a fairly serious, realistic, and intense way. They did a really good job here. It was mostly quite authentic. You know, there is also multiplayer that's part of this too. There's zombies, and we'll be showing off each of the elements that are present within the game. So yeah, just kind of, again, starting off with the campaign here, because it is such a, you know, visual treat. I literally jumped down and landed in a grenade. What is going on here? This is driving me crazy. But yeah, you just get to do some really brutal combat. It had some cool scenarios, and I think it's that guy with the rocket. Honestly, it's almost embarrassing dying this much here. Driving me crazy. So that guy doesn't get triggered until I move to the side, so they're definitely dead now. I'm gonna put a little bit of heal on me. I want to get, like, literally any other weapon. I need, like, a machine gun. So stay away from that corner, because apparently you just get killed there, even though I think I got the guy that was doing that. But you move through these set segments that are, you know, kind of linear in nature, and you're battling away, and it's World War II action. It's very, very well done. In my opinion, I think it looks good. I think it runs well. I was very, very happy with it. I think they kind of knocked it out of the park with this one in terms of being something, you know, authentic to the era, while also doing some new things with the Call of Duty series, or, well, maybe doing some old things with the Call of Duty series. Because again, like I said, this one really took us back to boots solidly on the ground. That was a huge part of this experience, was going back to the bread and butter of the Call of Duty franchise, making it intense, making it visceral, and providing something that you could do some really intense stuff with. Like, the cinematics are crazy, some of the sequences, like this, the beach sequence, just nuts. You know, it's really, really quite cool. And I think with that, we're going to be switching over to showing off the multiplayer portion of the experience, so that you can see that in action here and get an idea of how that aspect is running for this one. So this is the multiplayer portion of the experience, and one that I kind of like the most. So what I do in this game most of the time is play the war mode. Now it's still okay in terms of community health. You can find matches pretty easily. When you get into the later hours of the day, it tends to slow down a bit, so keep that in mind. But yeah, the war mode is really, really cool, and I'm kind of hoping that at some point we see it return. So this is an objective-based setup, you know, somewhat linear in regards to, you know, how people are kind of pushed into more specific areas, you know, again, linear in nature, and you're pushing objectives back and forth, taking places. Well, maybe not back and forth, but it depends on the scenario that you're doing. Sometimes you're moving tanks forward, sometimes you're going out to grab gas and bring it back, sometimes you're taking positions, you know, things like that. And it's not really like a tug of war, but it is sort of, you know, it's kind of like a push-through scenario. And I just love this mode. It featured larger maps, cool scenarios, and it was just something really different within the franchise. Now, this game does have all the typical modes you could expect. You know, it's got like a shipment 24/7, it's got team deathmatch, it's got, I don't know, there's Horde Point where it's like zombies on the map while you're capturing like the control point, the hard point, and I think that one is really quite cool and fun and a little silly, but quite neat. That's the multiplayer, you know, you kind of prestige. This one they took, well, it was releasing around the same time as, like, you know, kind of Destiny 2 was going out there. So they were kind of copying that to a degree because it was the same, you know, publisher and whatnot, Activision at the time. So they had in this one like I think they called it like the headquarters area or something like that. But they had like a beach area that you could go, and it was like a social hub where you could interact with people. I always thought it was kind of a little lame, but, you know, all to their own right on that one. So that was where you did everything. There was like loot crates where you could unlock items and stuff, and you could earn those while playing, or you could buy them, ha ha ha. But you know, they had that kind of stuff present within this one. There was the prestige system returning. I don't know if you, yeah, you can kind of see that there. So you prestiged and all that other kind of stuff. You know, very typical multiplayer experience. I hate people who do the drop thing on there. And then they had, like, you know, kill streaks and stuff, and you don't really see those on this one because, well, you know, they're kind of disabled on this setup because it's more about, like, things drop in, like you can pick up a flamethrower and stuff. Whereas other modes, it's more traditional. This one really exists by its own. And it was a bit of a shame that it was really limited because I think it was like 3 maps in the base game. And this was when we had, like, you know, you had to buy DLC packs still at the time, so the community was very segmented and you just never got to enjoy the new war maps, which was really disappointing. So I'm hoping with the whole Xbox purchase there that maybe is something that becomes available. Is this the map packs? Because you know it's in Zombies too, you get the one map and then you're just totally cut off from the rest of the experience. And Zombies is pretty cool. We will be showing that off and diving into it. I did actually quite like it in this one. But war, pretty intense. Like, it can get really brutal as you're just fighting back and forth and trying your best to, like, you know, keep the enemy from advancing and fighting. And you can get really high kill counts and stuff going on here. It's just kind of crazy. And it's got, like, a few different maps that are present are so cool. Like, this is a snowy one. There's one that's more like, they're building a bridge. Building the bridge guy. Iconic. The cute quartermaster. she's great. You know, it was just like it was a fun time. I had a lot of good times playing this game. I do actually thoroughly enjoy it. We were doing a lot of streams of it as well because I thought it was something that was quite enjoyable. And it looks pretty good, you know, here on the Series S. I don't know if I've been really getting that across the whole time. It does actually visually look pretty good. Again, like a sharp sort of, it's a big downcrease from like the native 4K I'm used to, the One X, Series X, but it still does look really remarkably great, fluidly running. That extra power for the Series S really comes in handy here, and I guess we'll jump into the next match. So this is another war match. It seems like the player count dipped down a bit, but this one's pretty cool because it's like this intense beachfront battle, and I was just like, yeah, we gotta show this off. So this is really leaning into the whole D-Day thing. You get some little bots to help you out when you're on the beach so that you don't get just like insanely mowed down over and over again, which is kind of nice. So keep that in mind, that some of these are real players, some of them are not. And this is regardless of if it's a full match or not, you always get these bots, but only for so long. There is a certain point where if the beach battle goes on too long, the other team just gets absolutely screwed, and they have to, you know, they have to deal with running out there with the bots not doing much. But yeah, it's just kind of like a really intense opening, and then it keeps going into these different like sectors and stuff. It's pretty cool. And like I said, there's a lot to like in this multiplayer. It's a pretty cool experience. I do actually suggest giving it a whirl. And like I said, I was talking about like the visuals and stuff there. It's just like it looks a lot like softer, and you can see a little bit more jagged edges in some of the stuff. And especially like War, I think, is a little bit more, I guess you would say, straining on the overall game in general, because it's a lot bigger. But, you know, it still looks pretty good. We got that fluidity going on. I think that's what's important about this experience, is that it is something that, you know, is decently running well. It does have some neat stuff to it. But I love the layered approach to what War had to offer. Because you're fighting and you're progressing and you're moving across these different like locations, and I thought that was really, really great. Definitely something interesting. I know we should probably play like some traditional match setups in this, but I just yeah, I definitely love my War combat, that's for sure. This one is a lot of fun, especially when you're on the side where you're just kind of like making it not too fun for the other team to get across. But it is like, it's sort of like side-based too. So, you know, you get a crack at this on, you know, defending the beach, and they're attacking, and then it kind of flips, and you play the next match the other way and stuff usually. So that's, you know, it evens out and stuff, so you get a chance at both ends. Or there's like rotating matches to play in different scenarios. It's a fun mode, and War is a pretty cool thing. You know, I highly suggest venturing into it and seeing if you can find a lobby to get an idea of what it was like. And then, of course, you can fall in love with they're building a bridge guy, because the bridge guy, he's just, it just kills me. Yeah, it really does. He's an iconic character. If there's someone they should bring back in like a later COD as like a reference character, the cute quartermaster, or they're building a bridge, that's what I want to see. That's the way to go. But it's neat though, because it's a COD of its time, right? Like movement wise, gameplay wise, how it runs, the features for like microtransactions, those loot crates and stuff. You know, it very much is the COD of that, like, kind of, I think it was like one of the last CODs of the era too, when it came to all of this stuff, before they started shifting again in direction. Because, you know, when you do a COD every year, you're always getting something that like represents that particular time in gaming. And usually the Call of Duty games almost take point in a lot of that for those trends, because, you know, if there's a trend that's going well, they definitely will take it and popularize it, because the Call of Duty games are always so big and legendary in this industry. So that's kind of neat. But no, it's just really good, gritty warfare. It's got some neat stuff going on to it. I liked what this provided. It feels intense. It feels action-packed. Oh, and there's some building things too. That's always pretty cool. You can like build up walls and that, and it's just like, it's a really, really good experience. It is something I thoroughly enjoyed. It feels action-packed. Keep in mind that this isn't like what the regular gameplay really is though. You know, because regular COD is more like run and gun, whereas this is more, you're actually presenting and covering and taking positions back and forth. So I do think that gives this a little bit of a different edge gameplay-wise, and something, you know, just, again, should be somewhat enticing for you to take a look at as an experience, because I do think it is a pretty cool game. It is fun, assuming you can, you know, find matches decently well, I would say. This multiplayer is worth experiencing, just so that you can have, you know, played it and stuff, and you might even get really into it. That's the cool thing about COD. So many different eras, so many different settings, so many different conflicts you can get into. There's, you know, you can sort of take them as little different adventures that you can have, and I think that is actually kind of enticing. That was a really good grenade. Except I'm not gonna stand there. Oh jeez, I'm gonna throw a grenade and get myself killed. Definitely was not set up for that, but it looks like they're going to be pushing us back, so that was a little unexpected. That is for sure. I'm wondering if we're going to actually be able to hold the line here. This guy's like a level 1000. See, some people, they're just like, you know, obviously they get a COD that they're just dedicated to, and they just level like crazy through it. I mean, like, seriously, getting to level 1000, it's like max prestiging and then getting to level 1000. that in itself is very impressive. And I mean, the prestiging wasn't like too hardcore in this one. It was quite traditional still at that time, but it's still a very impressive feat for those that are able to get to that level and that style. It's really quite cool. So let's switch this up and do something a little bit different gameplay wise. I think we'll show off. Well, we're gonna go to the zombies, I guess, at this point. We're wanting to show off the zombies experience now. This is the zombies mode. We're here just kind of showing it off in solo. I didn't want to join an online match and then like back out later and whatnot. But yeah, you come in. It's a really gruesome sort of zombies. It's really quite grotesque in terms of the gameplay style and aesthetic. There were a bunch of different maps, and I only got to experience the first one. I never dove into the later ones, any of the DLC in this. I didn't really care and stuff like that. Ugh. It's also a special COD to me as well, since this was the first one I got to review back in the day. I guess I should have mentioned that earlier. I always like to, because I'm like, oh, it's, you know, it holds that extra little bit of nostalgia too. It was kind of a cool time, needless to say. But yeah, you just kind of get this really messed up area. You have to do all this weird stuff. There is like the whole story or I guess, I don't know if people still call it like the Easter egg of the level and stuff that you work towards, but you actually have to in order to get stuff. And yeah, there's a lot going on here. Perk things, different zombies to kill, enemies to take out. It's a little bit wild. So this is it. You can like buy armor for like 500 jolts. You already have Crushed Child. So you kind of do that kind of stuff. It's neat. Like again, and it all fits into the aesthetic of the World War era, which is kind of neat and it makes sense considering what this is. So you just keep surviving the rounds. You can do it more survival-like if you want. This level's pretty cool because it's the base level. So you get like this like German town. I think you have to like shoot down really big like blimp things at some point in it if you work through it. And there's like a whole underground section, and then there's also like classes in this and stuff. So there's, you know, systems past just playing it. You actually have like leveling stuff. Like the zombies just continues to get more and more complex. And I like that they did their own thing with this one. I'm almost a little disappointed, you know, that later on we don't quite get that with the zombie stuff like we did at this time. And that's always quite intriguing to me, is how much zombies has specifically changed over time from, you know, basically game to game. Jeez, that was actually kind of a little bit of a good jump scare there. Huh. Find more gas valves. I shall do so. So yeah, you got sequences and missions and enemies to kill and things to do. It's your very typical zombies. But like I said, it's like quite gritty, it's kind of really intense, and it's got a good sense of difficulty and challenge to it. There should be a lot of surprises as you face off against the hordes of the undead and some other little, you know, other creature things you might come across too, which are always interesting to tackle. We gotta get this going. And then you play in co-op, so obviously I'm playing just like a custom match, but, you know, you can actually sit there and 4-player co-op is kind of like, I guess you might say, the preferred way to experience the magic of zombies. Seriously though, like 4 players is the way to go. Do matchmake online to connect with others. It just makes a much more fulfilling experience, in my opinion, for those that go in and play zombies, is to actually have a group. And you know, you can spend a lot of time playing zombies, you know, depending on your skill and stuff like that. So there's actually a lot of time present here. I think that's some big shaking going on. See, there's a lot to this one. Ooh, the combat shotgun. And then you can end up going across the bridge, and yeah, there's all that stuff. There's a surprising, again, amount of stuff going on here. Oh, is that the increased weapon damage as a jolt? It's always entertaining. We got this like last guy left, so I'm just, oh, there's 2 of them. They're just kind of moving around and whatnot.
Can't afford this. Not enough.
Need more money. Unbelievable. Oh, and you can pick your character and stuff too, if that's something that you're intrigued about. And then you go like the big underground, but for whatever reason I'm heading this way. I don't know why. just doing what I'm doing. But yeah, zombies pretty cool and a neat experience in Call of Duty World War II.